side effects. I'm involved in these vaccine trials. We have seen that these vaccines, all of them that are FDA, EUA approved currently, and also the ones that haven't been, that are in the trials, they are safe. But I think we need to hear and listen to our communities to think about and reflect on how to respond as to why they think it's not safe, and then be very intentional in providing that response and the science behind that response.
Thank you. Next question is, what are some of the common misconceptions that our community has when it comes to the vaccine? And I'd like to share that one with Dr. Nichols.
Thank you. So I'm a family physician, so we often hear people use various misinformation or myths about what is safe about the vaccines or what is unsafe about the vaccines. And common myths are that it will affect my fertility, and make me infertile. That is not true. We have to follow the science. There have been extensive studies done, there have been trials. We are continuing to monitor the vaccine safety throughout. CDC, they have the Be Safe program, and they continue to monitor from the beginning. I received my first vaccine in December. Last week, I have another follow-up from Be Safe. So these are misinformation and myths. The other one is that it will alter my DNA. So we know that that's not true. It's not going to alter who we are or where we came from or anything else. The other one is that if I get the vaccine, I will now get the infection. That is not true, because the vaccine has been shown to decrease deaths and serious complications. So it ranges from all types of misinformation, but the main thing is that vaccines are very safe, as Dr. Emmerglut has commented on, and that it is what can prevent us for these unfortunate deaths that are even now affecting children from unvaccinated adults.
Thank you.
And I just want to piggyback on what Doc just said. I think one of the main misconceptions is that it's going to hinder your chances on having kids. I was just in the Bahamas this past weekend, and me and my wife was with 3 other couples, and 3 of us was vaccinated and 1 couple wasn't. And we asked them why. It was because of the misconception that they thought, okay, it's going to hinder our chances, it's going to hurt the pregnancy, it's going to hurt the fertility rate within us trying to conceive a baby. And just trying to explain to them that there's no evidence that shows what they were stating. So I think we need to hone in on these couples even more to let them know that no, it's not going to hurt the chances of you having a healthy baby.
Thank you. Dr. Brooks, would you respond to the same question?
Sure. In the community, a lot of misinformation has been out there. I mean, they're putting something in to track you. I know you all heard that they're tracking you. Most of us have a tracking device we carry every day, which is a phone. So they don't need to add anything else. The second thing is when you look at why they won't get the vaccine, a lot of it had to do how it was developed or how it was presented. This warp speed thing, it was developed too quickly. They didn't understand, and we didn't educate people that it wasn't about the development of the vaccine that was fast. It was getting rid of all the roadblocks that prevent you from getting the vaccine out. So we have to educate people to make them understand that, they come out, we've had the flu around for years. Yeah, but you get the flu, you don't die from the flu if you get the vaccine. So that's what Dr. Toomey was talking about. There'll be people who get COVID who've been vaccinated, but they'll have milder cases. They won't wind up in the ICU. And that kind of information we have to dispel in the community and bring them knowledge about these things don't work like that.
Thank you.
From a different perspective concerning the vaccine and misinformation, from a spiritual perspective, listen, I've heard so much, this is the mark of the beast. We're taking the mark of the beast, and we are now Satanists. Let me just share something with you. The vaccine is not a mark of the beast. This type of misinformation in the church or the spiritual realm or the church community is I received the vaccine, and I'm not the devil. And so we have to educate, first of all, as pastors, to take the lead role, because our parishioners are those that we lead. We are supposed to be the leaders, so that means we must be first partakers in this to show our congregants that, listen, it's okay. And I share with a friend of mine in the 60s, if you were born in the 60s, there's a mark on your arm right now from the 60s back, where you received a vaccine. We did not know what was in the vaccine, but we received that vaccine, and we are alive and well. So from a spiritual perspective, as people of influence, we have to properly educate and let the people know, first of all, through teaching, this is not the mark of the beast. You're not the devil. If you're not careful, you will meet the devil. But no, so these are the things that we have to be very conscious and knowledgeable of.
Thank you. Dr. Fowler, will you respond to that also?
You know, we have to be able to speak with one voice about this COVID-19 and viruses that exist. You know, I want to speak to the students. You know, the greater influences of grown folk, and that include parents, grandparents, is listening to our students. And we know that this is a population, Dr. Toomey, in our schools that are not yet vaccinated, unless a few parents have done so because they are 12 and above. And I think that in order for us to be able to see this shift, and I'm going to speak to Georgia, we first have to acknowledge that, yes, I have had the vaccination. There is trust issues in all of this. If it's okay for those of us on this panel to be able to speak in front and be influences that we've had it, then there are those masses out there going to trust that, you know, I can do this. But until this happens, and it's going to have to be conversations like this, and I'm so proud of Peach State and Morehouse College for allowing this venue to occur. So they will see that this panel representing various, not just the School of Medicine, and we trust our doctors here, but look at the other members of this panel. So conversations across the state are going to have to happen. No venue is out of place. It might be in a downtown coffee shop. You got to meet the people where they are, and this will make a difference.
Commissioner King?
I tell you what, I've seen a consistent theme in this conversation today, and I think, Minister, you captured it. This is about leadership. It's about leading at the national, at the state, at the local, at the street corner level. I just met with a number of police chiefs down in Savannah for the Chiefs Conference, and I questioned, and I told them, I said, you know, where's yours? I got mine. And this is about leading. And I've heard everyone, well, I'm not sure. Look, you are exposed. You're out there on the streets of our communities, and you're going home, and you're dealing with your family, kids under 12. What kind of leader are you? And so Dr. Toomey and I have spent a lot of time, especially in the Latino community, where we engage in the Latino community in our native language. And we really, you know, why? And there's a reason why our senior citizens are so well, they're not catching COVID. Why? Because they got the vaccine. That there's no more powerful evidence than that. And we have a responsibility to have that conversation and listen, like you say, listen to the reasons of why people are hesitant and confront a lot of that misinformation with their own facts, starting that conversation. I had the vaccine. And people don't realize the emotional and mental health. You feel like you're being liberated the moment you get that vaccine and you pass that period. You feel truly free. And this virus and the fear of this virus has got this thumb over our communities. And we have a duty to lead. And so that is the pitch that I make to all my friends, and is that personal conversation is required at this point.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just one point to add, and that is, Peach State, we had a vaccine event in Albany. And after being at Albany State, we went over to a church that one of our panelists is familiar with. And the minister said, 65% of my parishioners have been vaccinated. What does that tell you? It takes the influencers. You know, your doctor, your minister, your barber. It was funny that, and Terry, you were there with me, that the format was, you know, it was a barbershop, which in some communities, that's like therapy, you know, so, and believe it or not, I got my hair trimmed a little bit, so. I did, so. But the point is that you have to meet them wherever they are, and whoever the influencer is. And so that was very telling. I always believed that, but after going there and seeing that, it was just phenomenal. One other question I like to ask, and I'm going to put it, these will be only caregivers, the doctors, and I'll start with my infectious disease specialist. What do you think about the variants, and what can you say about that, and why are they significant?
So this is one of the important points to take home. We are in a race against the variants. So if you think that you're hesitant about getting the vaccine and you're wanting to sit on the fence, then keep an eye on those variants. What we know about coronaviruses in general is that they do mutate. That's a natural behavior of this type of germ, like many germs actually. But it's almost like survival of the fittest. So it adapts to who are what's their environment, who remains vulnerable. If you look at who's getting disease now, who are the cases, it's no longer the elderly, as someone had mentioned. It's the young folks. It's the 18 to 29-year-olds, the people who thought, oh, it doesn't matter if I get COVID, I'll get over it. So when we talk about variants, there's not just one variant. There are many variants. We are all concerned about the Delta variant because it has dominated the scene, not only in this country, but in 92 other countries. And the reason is because it has adapted, it's figured out how to replicate much quicker, much faster. And what we don't want to see is that the variants somehow figure out to outsmart the spike protein that is in these vaccines, right? So we want to get vaccinated as quickly as possible for all of our population. So as a pediatrician and also a pediatric infectious disease specialist, I'm very concerned and want to do what I can to accelerate getting vaccinations to the kids who are younger than 12, because they are making up about 22% of our population. So that's really important for us to kind of stay focused on.
Before you move on, I want to go back to a point that you made earlier about meeting people where they are. I have a unique role on this panel in that I'm the CEO of Boys and Girls Club, but also am the vice chair of the board of directors for Phoebe Putnam Memorial Hospital in Albany. As many of you know, that Albany was an early hotspot in the world. And so when you're meeting people where they are, I had to learn this lesson the hard way with Boys and Girls Club. I used to go out and do pitches and I would talk about our metrics, our outcome measures, and this kind of thing. Well, that works in certain audiences, but in other audiences it doesn't. So what I found myself doing is just breaking it down very simply. What is Boys and Girls Club? We make sure that kids are safe, supported, prepared, and ready. And some people would say, well, doesn't prepared and ready mean the exact same thing? And Pastor, I'll give this example for you. You can use it Sunday in church. But I like to pay my tithes. I like to say my prayers. I like to do those things that the Master say that we should in an effort to be prepared. But am I ready to meet him? Absolutely not. Not yet. And so that's what I tell people about this vaccine, because for the first time in the 100+ year history of Phoebe Putnam Hospital, we had to stand up our critical crisis response team. And every Thursday morning from mid-March to about mid-July, I was in that hospital every single Thursday morning at 7 a.m., literally making decisions, very tough decisions that none of you want to carry with you at night. And so what I tell people is saying, you know, we got to make sure that our kids and our young people, that you're prepared to get back to the way that you say you want to live again. If not, be ready to possibly meet your maker a little sooner than you want to. So,
Thank you.
Can I say something really?
Yes, yes.
Just two very quick things. As you said, Doctor, right now, our vaccines protect against all the variants we know about. But as long as the virus is spreading, it can keep changing and changing and changing. And eventually it's going to change into a form that our vaccines don't protect against. And so I think you've heard Dr. Walensky say it's a race against it's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. And so this is really extremely important. And so I just wanted to make a point because you made me think about it. I had a privilege of attending an event at Park Atlanta University with Vice President Harris. And she talked about how can we use students and young people to actually help promote vaccination, because in fact, they can be influencers if they actually recognize the importance of vaccine for themselves, for their families, for their friends. And that was just such an important message to me, that we had not thought about that, and how we can do that, all of us, collectively, whether it's public health, whether it's you at your level in the community, or at the universities. And really mobilize our young people to help us help the communities themselves.
Thank you, Doctor. And just one thing to add, and that is, if you look at the demographics by age of what group is most and least vaccinated, the older most, the younger least. So I think that's certainly one good tactic, to take a group of students to talk to other students, their peers, to say, I got it, why not you?
Yeah.
I do want to add to that, because we are involved in a national study that's initiated by NIH, and we are one of 40-some sites to look at the 18 to 29-year-olds to try to see, why they might not want to get vaccinated. But in that, we've created and are part of a National Youth Advisory Board. We actually, part of the consortium for the Atlanta University, we have members from each of the institutions around here, and we've tried to understand from their perspective, what's the best way to reach out and touch that peer group? Because I think in order to really understand why they might be hesitant to get vaccinations and why they're the lowest group of our population that are actually getting it, it is to ask them in that age group what's happening, and also what's the best way to reach out to them? What social media platform works? What doesn't work?
And that's the main thing I wanted to talk about is, we're dealing with kids for so long, is that it's all about delivery. And that's one of the things that we have to understand as being older, is that we have to deliver a message to these younger people that they can relate to. Because you may say something one way, but it may be way over their head, right? So I think that's the main thing, is understanding your audience, understanding how you need to reach, because you can go down here on Bankhead and say all these things that you want to say, but if you're not saying it in a way so these people on Bankhead can understand, they're not going to listen to you. So sometimes you might have to draw things down a little bit. If you're dealing with somebody who is more technical, you might have to be more technical with that person. So I think delivery is very important in this process as well.
I agree. Just one thing to add, and that multiple ways of delivery, one of them should stick. And the analogy I give is, math problems. Sometimes they're difficult. You received it one way, didn't understand it. A second way, didn't understand it. A third way, really got it. So, to your point.
And that further explains, being a partner with Peach State, I think we have a formula. What do I mean? As we're talking about how to reach the people, there are three pillars that stand out to me concerning being here and what Peach State stands for. Service. Service to the community, service to the people. And in that service, you get the breakdown of how to communicate effectively. Science. This is where Morehouse School of Medicine comes in. We're getting the science. And then here's a very, very important pillar to the component as to what Peach State is doing and why we're here, adding the Savior. So now you have service, you have science, and now you have the Savior. With those three, no matter how it dwarfs or changes, we can defeat it. Because we have service, that's Peach Day. We have science, that's Morehouse School of Medicine. Then we have the third partner, Savior. That's us as the influencers in the realm of religion.
Thank you. Next, Dr. Fall.
Okay, back to Dr. Toomey, and again, obviously I'm an advocate for young people. When we talk about reaching out to the younger students in this state, I want us to think about the thousands of students that are in our classrooms in Georgia. Think about the employees, beginning with teachers and other staff in the schools that have not been vaccinated. There is a shift in teachers and employees leaving our schools in this state because they are fearful of what? The virus. So if we don't do something in reference with this population, then we're gonna see, yes, the uptick continues and death continues among those that have not been vaccinated. And I am interested, and I know everybody on this panel is as well, in continuing this conversation about how can we best be better influencers. My conversation with Peach Day has been offering up my school as a site, as a community site for the community, beginning with parents, anybody in the community, to be able to come over to be what? Vaccinated. I'll be that voice in my community. So it's going to take all of that if we truly want to see a shift in having an increase in vaccinations in this state, then this is the work that must occur.
Thank you. And then one last response from Dr. Nichols, and then we're going to do a round table. We'll start on one end and go to the other.
So I just want to have one additional thought. Just like our pastor said, we at Morehouse School of Medicine, we're dealing with the science here. We have already engaged. We have Peach State as our insurance partners and other insurance companies. We have communities. We have engaged the communities. Our medical students are going out and vaccinating and being vaccinators. And our students are going, because they are closer to the age than some of us are for sure. So with that being said, we just go out into the community. But there's one last partner. We need you. We need the parents. We need everyone to partner together, because as Dr. Imaglat said, we are in a race against time. These variants are they're smarter, they're dangerous, they're more infectious. And then once we get to there's a point where the variants will overtake this and we can't keep up. So in order to do that, while we have the opportunity, we really need to get everyone vaccinated. Because unfortunately, our young people, our children, I'm talking about those under 12 who are not eligible yet. As an adult, we can protect them so that we won't see the unfortunate stories that we have right now of children who are under 6 years old dying. So that is very unfortunate for something that is completely preventable. So we as parents, we as community leaders, everyone needs to make sure that we encourage people to get vaccinated, because we really do need to protect our young people and our children who have no defenses, because at this point, the vaccine is not approved for them to get vaccinated.
Thank you. And then we're short on time, so what I'd like to do is do a round robin. And I really want everyone to give one thing we can do. We're talking action now. One thing we can do. You have about 20 seconds.
Information. My people perish because of lack of knowledge. And here's the further part that we forget. They reject the knowledge. That is key. We're rejecting the knowledge. And the scripture says, God said that if you reject the knowledge, I'll reject you. Knowledge is the key. Education. That's going to be the outcome.
Thank you. Mr. Lester.
As we look to get more young people involved, we have to talk with them and not just to them. Marvin Lasser's philosophy on youth development is that all programming should be youth-driven but adult-guided. So we're looking for young people to get more involved, and we have to bring them to the table. Look at some of the most powerful movements in the world have all been led by young people. So bring them to the table, tell them what the challenges are, and leave them to their own devices to craft that message in that movement, in their own language, in their own way, and then watch the world change.
Thank you, Dr. Nichols.
Be role models. We are the adults here. Get vaccinated. Yesterday I had an unfortunate story of a 12-year-old who wanted to get vaccinated, but his mom doesn't want to get vaccinated. So therefore, she would not allow her 12-year-old to get vaccinated. That is so unfortunate. So we need to be role models, and we need to step up and get vaccinated so that we can protect ourselves, our colleagues, our community, our loved ones.
Pastor Corbett.
I like to say responsibility. I think as influencers, we have the right responsibility to share with our young people. A couple of weeks ago, our organization was to meet in Macon, and we would have gathered 1,500, 2,000 young people. But I had to make the hard decision to cancel simply because that the information and the data that we had was that they were just simply not vaccinated. So rather than take a chance and bring a lot of people together, and it spread back to 159 counties in the state of Georgia, I simply had to make the hard decision, took some heat from it, but I had to make the hard decision, look, it's canceled until we can get these numbers under control. So I think being responsible influencers where we are in our local communities will mean a whole lot.
Thank you. Dr. Emery Gluck.
Listen, that's a key word. Listen, and respond in a way that lets that person know that you heard them. Keep up with the science. Evidence-based data does matter, and we have to keep adjusting because the evidence continues to roll in. And finally, vaccines don't save lives, vaccinations do. So please keep that in mind.
Thank you. Mr. Tucker.
I would say when you have events like this, encourage people, your friends, your family members, people that they know to come. And if it's on Zoom, I know I promoted this on my social media like no other because I wanted people that I'm close to and all the followers that I have to log on to Zoom so they can understand and see all of us on this panel giving them the information that can possibly save lives so we can get back to what we love so much, and that's life. So when you have things like this, encourage people. I don't care if it's one person. That means it's one life getting saved. But if you can do more than one person, encourage them to be involved in things like this.
Thank you. Now we're going to move to Dr. Fowler.
In the words of the late John Lewis, see something, do something. We see across the world that people are dying in reference to this virus. We also see and know that vaccinations save lives. See something, let us do something by being influencers first.
Dr. Brooks.
I would say we have to get out of our shells and get uncomfortable and get out in the community. It's easy to be an influencer when you're telling people what they need to do, but you have to go out and meet them where they are and be able to talk to them. And that's one thing our organization tries to do is go out in the community and meet people where they are. Because until we get the information out to them, they're not going to understand what's going on. We can't sit there and just keep sending it out. We got to go out and just tell them about it.
Commissioner King.
If you're hesitating to take the vaccine, if you know, by now there is ample evidence that the vaccine is effective. If you're still hesitating, find somebody you trust, somebody that you truly trust, whether it's a pastor, whether it's somebody that's had the vaccine, and ask them what about their personal experience. And that is the way you seek knowledge. Find somebody you trust and ask them about their experience. And then make the only logical decision that comes from that inquiry, is take the vaccine.
Commissioner Toomey.
I'm going to share with you my own personal goal, and it's to have every physician in Georgia offer COVID vaccines in their office. You'd be amazed how few physicians actually do offer the vaccine, just a relatively small number. And yet physicians are viewed as influencers. They often are the person people go to make decisions about their health, whether you go in for a cold, whether you go in for your blood pressure check. You can get your COVID shot, and yet that isn't available as it is like a tetanus shot. There's other vaccinations. So I'm reaching out to all of you. Reach out to your own physician and say, join up. You know how to do that. The health department has reached out to you. Help us help you.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Riggs.
Well, I'm so appreciative of everything that's already been said here today. I think that a lot of us, and it was mentioned by Pence earlier, are taking pride in getting the vaccine and not being shy about that. And I think in a lot of ways, we hear the other side, which is sharing information. But people who've had the vaccine, we all remember that moment. I hate needles. But I felt, I looked away. But the feeling afterwards, after that 15, 30-minute period where they said sit, I felt fantastic at minute 31. And I think we have to continue to share that pride that takes place, because that's informing just in the demonstration of what people are doing. The next thing is that those individuals who are still there need to go to Dr. Jimmy Commissioner's great website and find out where you can get a vaccine. Right now, you go to the Georgia Department of Public Health, you've got the COVID vaccine lookup tool. You can find out in your community where you can do that. And the third is this has given us such an opportunity to reinvest in community and health partners. We are blessed in the state of Georgia to have the Morehouse School of Medicine. My father got his vaccine here. Army veteran, 2-time cancer survivor. The first day that he could get it, Morehouse School of Medicine stepped up. And he drove as fast as he could from as far as he had to. He's closer to Macon, as I told you, to get here, to get his vaccine. But that's only possible because of the efforts of many generations now past to ensure we had access to schools like this, to the best healthcare professionals in the world are in the state of Georgia. And so many of them are here and at our agencies fighting for us each and every day. So I'm proud to be a Georgian, proud to lead the largest coordinator of healthcare for people across this great state, and even more excited about the future because of what I've heard here today and what I know we're going to do when we get off this stage. So, Dr. Richardson, back to you.
Thank you, Wade. And first of all, I'd like to thank all of our distinguished panelists for participating. This has been a great discussion, but it's not over. This is just the beginning. We have to continue talking, continuing outreaching, continuing to do all the things it takes to get adoption. I have relatives that won't take it, but I'm talking to them every day, more and more and more, giving them more information, different information. So continue on. Again, I'd like to give the panelists a Next, we're going to move to the community, and first we'll go to Family Health Centers of Georgia, Dr. Brooks. We'll move there, and then after that we'll go to Athlete's Foot, and then we're going to the barber shop. So,
point of privilege, if I may. Yes. Dr. Adrian Tyndall, new dean of Morehouse School of Medicine, Dr. Montgomery Rice introduced me. I just want to say thank you. This was, honestly, I came to see you, and I had a bunch of meetings, and I needed to stay because this was really powerful. I'm from the University of Florida. It's really hard to make a move from the Gator Nation to Bulldog Country.
Make it up for us, right?
Morehouse did that, right? And I got pulled here. I just wanted to say a few things. You all are so powerful and so articulate, and really people need to hear this over and over again. The tidbits, the nuggets of really important advice. Barbershops. Small community of Gainesville, that's what I did, got my hair cut, spoke to people. Eyeball to eyeball, it makes a difference when you engage in that level. Albany, Georgia. I used to be the interim dean and associate vice president of health affairs at UF Health. We got a lot of patients in Alvin, Georgia. I'm an emergency physician, frontline provider. I took care of patients in the emergency department. We had a medical student who lost a good bit of her family in Albany, actually, from the first wave. So I understand this. This is important work. It's incredibly important work. All the information here is so accurate. Our young people need to hear it. The advice in terms of getting them in front. My daughters are all vaccinated, but their peers, we have a problem. So I love this. This is incredibly important. I couldn't thank you enough for what you're doing. Let's get to work. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor. And by the way, we both are ER docs. So.
Oh, that's great.
I knew something I liked about you.
Thank you ever so much. This was an incredible